today's lesson we'll be doing an elephant, as you can see here. It's an elephant that photograph that I took in the Umfolozi Game Reserve a couple of years back, and came round the corner, and this bull was looking at us, not far, just off the road. Fortunately, he wasn't very aggressive or anything. He allowed us time to take a few photographs. So, from what you do here, when we're doing pen and ink, what I normally do as well too is go along and make a black and white of this one, change it into that, and that gives you a much easier reference for your tonal ranges to see where your darks and your lights are, and etc. So you've got a much easier feel, although it's also good exercise to be able to do it without this as well too. But anyway, there we go, and you can see you've got a lot of nice markings on here, etc. for very, very adaptable to pen and ink work. So here you have a tracing, a smaller one that I've made. Take the blue transfer paper away. Let's get rid of the there. Now here we got the blue. As I've mentioned before in the previous ones, I'm using the blue because that disappears very nicely behind the pen and ink sketching. So right, let's get started, and I'm using the little pen just to give me the very light outlines at first, and then I can come in with a slightly larger pen. So I was going to go over these blue lines just to go give me my outline. And also watching also for some of the, I just see I forgot to put this tusk in here. Okay, I'll draw it in. Let's do that quickly. You got the tusk that's coming out, and it's coming from this area out into here. Coming in this across to there, into there, and that's, there we go. So we got the one tusk there, and let's do the other tusk while I'm busy with it here. Right. Now we also get these little folds, so I'm going to get those little folds in there just to give me the nice outline. Here it's much smaller. Coming along, you see the little fold in there, across here, a few little ones, and here I'm just putting a few tiny little ones in there. So it's not a straight line. A lot of little muscles in this particular area. So let's put a few of these little lines. Always come and darken them up a bit later. These are all the little guidelines first. And here there's a lot of, starts here, there's a lot of little guidelines inside here. All these little muscles. All going across. The eye, remember the eye is very small. Don't try and make the eye too big. So we've got a side of the face coming down here. All the little guidelines. Very lightly first. These are the most important ones, and you'll find that they're going to be of great help as we go a bit further on, and a lot of the little fine ones will sort of disappear in amongst the other lines. part of the back, start of the ear, and the ear comes down here, the outline. Got all these folds, so you need to actually also mark them. Bit of a darker area. Inner part of the ear, down into there. Guidelines for some of these folds. Doing them very lightly. Now we've got the other part of the hump and the back. Then I think before I come down too close here, down to the bottom, we do have some sticks and grasses that we need to show. So let's bring that back up top here, and you can see all these little branches of some of these little shrubs. We need to keep those areas light, and across here as well too. It's going to be, this is the area we're going to have to work very carefully so as not to lose all these little twigs and thorns, etc. that's on these areas. So let's put that in. You've got the one that's coming across down here. Let me just recharge my pen again. This one that's coming along here. Up that way, and you need to don't go too close, otherwise you're going to lose that little light line. Rather make it a bit wider, and you sort of can come in and close up that little gap. Very small. You've got all these little twigs that are also coming out. Some creases that go down this way. The underside of the belly is in there, and we have some shrubbery on this side, and we have some marks. You'll find some, it's got like almost like a lot of little squares we'll come into a bit later on, where all these folds, some of them are, some folds out this side, some of them folding down this way, a little less on the other side. And we have some little twigs. Going to be putting some background stuff in a bit later on. And there's a little tree in the background. And let's see, I think we got most of the guidelines in, which we'll be able to see what's happening. Okay. Right now, now I'm going to start with this area. Let's that's when they move it into that. Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to start with the number 3 pen, and then we're going to start putting in all the details around the face, and I like to get done with the eye area and all that as well. But first of all, I just need to clean this nib ready for the next one, otherwise it solidifies and you have a bit of a problem later on. Always good to clean all that up. Okay, so now, and I'm using the number 3 fine line, the Unipin. It's water fade proof and it's pigment ink. In other words, all this Indian ink is actually pigment. It's not a dye. It's been very, very, very finely ground, and it's solids that get left behind. Okay, so let's start here. Get a bit of the eye. That you got these little creases over the top, and then let's put some shading in here. And the eye is very, very, very small, and with a tiny little glint in the eye. People tend to make the elephant eye miles too big. It's a very, very small eye. You got some marks across here. I first want to establish the main marks, and then we can come in and do all the nice little shading. Comes down in this area. These are all the little folds. So you got another one. Oh, that's this main one. You've got this other little one that comes across here. I'm not going to put them all exactly the same. Each elephant is also slightly different, so it doesn't matter if you've not copied it 100%. And these are little marked. It's not little straight lines, but they've got little folds coming down. And then there's a bit of a shadow underneath that fold. There's another fold across here. There's also a little touch of a shadow, just sort of making little marks. And another one that comes across here. And each of these folds got a bit of a shadow underneath. Just give an indication. We can always come and fill it up later on. When you come down the side here, these folds there's less, smaller and smaller, and you don't always get these big deep creases. And then you have also the folds this way. Let's put some little shading underneath these. And here's another little one. Some of these folds don't go always all the way around. There's odd little ones that sort of come in between all this lot. And then you've got some of these creases. There's another little, smaller little fold coming in here. And then you have some of these marks coming across. Very characteristic of the elephant. Darker in the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just few tiny little marks, very light. Coming up I don't want to go too dark at the moment. Rather a bit too light in the beginning than too dark. Once you go too dark, then you've spoiled it. So you've got a bit of a shadow coming up in this area. A bit of a shadow down here. Some shadow in this area as well. And usually when I bring the marks, these in, I bring them in the according to the slope of what's happening. All right, let's go back into this. All right, let's just continue this bit down here. Let's darken this area up. And then a few little ones here. Because the sun is actually coming from this top end here, down this way. It's coming down this way here. And there's a, under the eye, you've also got these, so I'm giving that bit of a turn, very small, into this area. Some of the lines are coming down. And you've got some, in this area it becomes a little bit darker. So you've got some very light there, and it gets darker as it comes down into here. You know, what you're doing, you almost splicing the lines, some and then others in between, so that it has an even marking through. And the sun is catching just along the top of these folds on top here. It's actually got very long eyelashes in here, but I've not put them in. I want to show the some elephants don't have quite that long eyelashes. So you've got some right here, it's darker down this area. Dark in this area here, just give enough there to show the eye. And in this area, let's darken this area up here. There's a lot of shadow in this area. Start giving form. There where it's very dark, I can also come in and do some cross hatching. You've got some of these, the lines, the form of the face is this way, so it's also sort of shooting up along here. Although it's quite dark, started this way. And there's a bit of a lighter area, so I was going to bring that up into there, so we don't actually see my mark across there. Darken it up, so a few odd little lines across. There we go. Bring that down and into this area here, the fold of the ear. Right against that fold of the ear is quite dark. So you got that into this area, so I'm going to, and down here, let's start giving the shape of the face. Tusk comes out, got that, there we go. So it's quite dark in here. And this area here is a real dark area. I'm still filling it up with lots of little lines. Some of it this way, crossing, etc. We'll come back into that. Let's just slowly work up this area. The face is the most important part of the elephant. We have a bit of shade coming up into this area. that bit of shade. You got that also, there's a hump across here. And then from here there's also some lines coming down. And here, let's go back into this one. Let's get some of this darker, bit of a darker area here. Straighten out the tusk a bit. And there's a fold in this way. And underneath here, bit of as it goes in, this is, and then got a bit of a rounding along the top. A few little marks in here. We don't want to get too much. It's quite a bit of a light area. Here you get a few more of these lines coming in. So let's put those in here. All the while I'm watching the tonal ranges inside the elephant. Inside the photograph of the elephant, rather. Let's put it this way. Here we got quite a bit of deeper marking in here, and some really pertinent folds in some of these areas. Inside here you've got some shadows, and there's a bit of a little bit of a dip inside here, so the slight bit more of a shadow here. Some of it coming down. Okay, let's go back up to the top. Going to emphasize a few more of these little creases. You can do that once you've done your first lot, and also have a look. It's not just a straight line. It's going into where you've got these little lines. Sort of go into one of those lines and gives you the emphasizing the actual little creases that go this way as well. The trunk actually comes past there, and this part here is very dark. This piece here. Really deep in the shade. And you got your part there where the other tusk comes out, and I'm going to give you a few little of these little marks where some of the creases are. Emphasize them. Okay, let's go back to the top of the head. Smaller marks in here, they're not quite as emphasized as the other side. And the top here also is very much lighter, so you've got a little touch, that rounding. Got some shadow because it's also going around the other side. And in this side, across into here. I don't know too much. I'll come back with a finer pen and put these fine lines in. With this one here is a little bit too thick for some of these real finer areas. So I'll come back to that one. So let's continue down here. You've got a little, all this area here is very dark. You can see it brings out the shape of the tusk very nicely. And the mouth comes out from the side, underneath there. And there we got the tusk. And let's put another one down here. I'm not keeping exactly to the photograph. A few lines. You got some areas here. You got quite a little bit of a shading in between. You also got that dip inside, so don't make it as an absolute straight line. This is part of the shadow area here of the trunk, and add some shadow areas in there just now. So right, let's add some more of these little creases here in the trunks. A few little marks in between as well. I'm going to use the fine pen for the real deep shadows, the nice shadowy part. Let's just get the emphasizing of these first. So we've got some more. Don't forget your little grass here. Don't go over it, otherwise you're going to bring it over the top. Forget to bring these at these corners here, to bring them slightly round so that they not go absolute straight lines. There, you got some more in here. And as you come closer, you got more of these little creases. They get closer and closer. Some of these out here, down to give you the rounding. You're not going to see too much. There's the feel of these coming in. So you've got a few more little ones in here. And I'll just give a slight indication of some shadows. Careful, don't lose the grass. That one's going behind. Okay. This tusk, we're also going to sharpen up the edge there a bit, and you've got a bit of a darker shadow underneath here, so let's bring some of that shadow in. At this stage, this one hasn't too much here, it's got a little bit of a shadow underneath there. I'll come back with a smaller pen. Let's just darken some of this area up here now. This area here is also a little bit darker. This is very dark. I'm going to use the bigger pen to fill that in. So I'm crisscrossing in these ones here. Some places I'm not filling the completely. I want to have some sort of, in some areas, some bit of light sort of shining through and glinting on the animal itself. Because what happens, a photograph, in bright lights, you've got a deep shadow. Your photograph, your camera sort of makes all that disappear. It overexposes and underexposes in other little areas, and you don't get to see. Your eye is very sensitive. Your eye will see all that there in the shadows. We need to give a bit more detail in the shadows as well too. So you've got a bit of a darker area up here. A few little lighter lines coming up there, down. Okay, let's start darkening up this ear a little bit here. So we've got some shadows in this area. Got a fold. I've still got the marks on the flap of his ear is all in this way. So I'm going to still do it. There's a bit of a nice little highlight on the edge of his ear here. And then it disappears down here into the bottom edge. Darken that a little bit there. And then when it comes over the edge here, you've got a little bit of a few little lines, taking away that sharp little edge, and also a slight little turn downwards this way. Okay. And this edge here too is also, it's not a straight line, because in those little folds, let's get some of those little lines away, because you've got little folds coming up here as well. We'll add them in a short whilst time. It comes down. Here there's a bit of a darker shadow here, giving that little turn or that little flap. Darker little shades inside. And you've got some indicating some of the folds. You've got a bigger folds down this end here, where it comes, and fold goes in. That one sort of folds over the top. That one will fold over the top here. And then inside this one here, you've got that deeper, much deeper color, or the tonal range rather. And we've got a few little ones down here. Just sort of giving indications, just to get the feel of the whole thing, what's happening. And inside here, it's also nice and dark. Okay, I'm going to get the 0.3. I'm now going to go over to the 0.5 one, and that gives me more body here to darken up these areas where you've got the deep shade. So let's bring some of these shades in, and right along nicely across this edge here. Don't forget we've got this grass. Careful of going over it, because we want to have the elephants established in a grassy area in the bush. So you need to have those all showing up. This is all. I'm not going to go too far down because little bits of shrubbery that I want to also do some negative painting in negative work inside there. So let's put that up there. When you can do the grass, if you feel that you're going to lose the grass, start outside the area of the grass, and then like here, start outside the area of the grass, and then you can slowly work your way in towards the grass. And then come in and carefully just get this. There we go. There you can see now the grass coming over that area. Let's darken this area here. These legs are like tree stumps. One of the most difficult legs to draw and paint to make it look realistic. They always look, I suppose that's why they call them, instead of elephants, they call them effalumps. So, so there we go. This is real dark in here, and then here we can start leaving some of the light through. Remember the tonal ranges that we were working on earlier on, and the leg actually goes right up. And there's got here you got also part of the chest that comes through in this area. But then we've also got a piece of grass here, so let's be careful there. Got the chest coming in here. That piece of grass coming around. Crisscrossing here, getting that nice shadow in, showing up the ear, the edge of the ear. That grass coming in. There's another little one coming down here as well. So there you got the deep shade of the leg. You got your grass. The grass stem coming up here. A little bit of shade on this side, and then it's going to start a semi-shade out that way. All this part here is still part in darker in this area. Don't go too far down. We need to, part of this ear is sort of lifted up, and then we have the marks of the leg coming across here, down here. And all this is like semi-shade in this area. So you got that coming down. And in this area here, I'm going to just do a bit of a few darker lines, show some of these creases. And then careful of the grass. And here I'm going to do a bit of cross-hatching here. To show up that shadow area. And across here, the leg up here too, there's also that of a dark area up here. There's the grass here as well. Yeah, I'm not going to put in all the little thorns. I'm just going to sort of indicate just a few of them. Obviously, you don't have to always put these in, but it does give you that establishing shot. In other words, it's telling you where the elephant is. He's standing in the bush. He's not out just in an open felt, as it were, out in the complete open. Elephant love the bush. They can hide so quickly behind a little bush. Many times I've seen the elephant on the road. He's just passed across the bush in front of me, and then you come within 2 minutes from where he was, and he's absolutely just disappeared. Unbelievable. And this big thing like that can disappear behind a bush. They sort of just almost like camouflage. They just disappear. Okay, so we got that little bit there. So the elephant's starting to show up. Okay, so we got that bit coming down, and we got the legs actually sort of got a bit up the side. Very unshapely, their legs. There's a bit of a twig on this side as well too, so let's not lose him. There we go. And you've got this little bit of a darker area here. All these little lumps, as it were, so I'm going to sort of just come along and do this type of indication at the moment. Some of it's going to come out this side, some of it's going to come out this way. Dark across here. So I'm going to come out this. I'm going to use in this area, I'm going to use the number 8. Where's my broader one, because we've got the bigger marks inside here, deeper shadows as it were, and you have some of them also disappearing very lightly. You've got some going across this way, come down, do a bit of crisscrossing across here, very lightly, not too much. So even with the number 8, if you do it very, very lightly, you can still get very light lines. But all these ones are still here in the slope of the, let's put a bit here too, you've got a bit of a shadow across here. And because it's round this way, it's also going to have quite a bit of shading down here. So, but it's not as dark, solid as the other, so some places here is a bit solid. So let's solid up some of this a bit. Parts here are going to start getting some shade. We can use a lot of that by crisscrossing, but just be a bit careful here when we're busy with some of these shrubs, so we don't lose the markings. I'm doing a series of tiny little things. When you're doing these ones, you have patience. If you want to make a real nice drawing that looks real professional, you need to exercise patience. And then we're going to put a few cross hatchings across. And we have some lines coming down this way. Give you that shape coming down, and as it comes down here, it turns around. As it comes down, it turns flat. To give you that absolutely, it doesn't just stop flat, straight and stop. It makes that twist because it is going round. So here, the top, you've got those coming across here. A little bit of a hump, or a bit of a dent in that area, and coming down. And as we come down here, we can actually start putting a bit more of these lines. So they're not absolutely solid. We needed to have that semi-shade. And when you get the semi-shade, it's not always easy to show up these little twigs. But we do our best. At least we have them sort of, they can also be in the shade, as it were. So let's go across here. Bring some of that down. And also some of these markings you find is also shooting up this way as well. So you get that rounding this way and the markings up that way. And here we're going to get less and less. The markings get up in the sunshine. Very much less up inside here. And Only a few little markings, and yeah, on the top here, there's been going through the mud. They give themselves mud baths and stuff, so you've got these little mud pieces of mud that's stuck on the top of their bodies, and it gives you a bit of interesting, makes it look interesting as well too. Here we're gonna a little branch out. The sun's coming from that side, so let's give it an indication here. Just a few little marks. And there's another little branch coming out this side. Just using my imagination here at the moment. Part of the tree. A few little leaves. And here I'm going to carry on with these lines. This is going to be a lot of crisscrossing in this area here. When you come to this end here, be careful you don't bring the lines over this one here, otherwise it's going to look funny. You've got to learn to stop right on the line. That's where those practice exercises come in. Do your practice to know where exactly to stop. You've got a leg down in this area as well, and it starts to get darker down in here. So I'm going to put a few more little cross hatchings here. I don't want to lose the shading completely. So here a few little leaves. The bush there. And we're going to come in and with some cross hatching start to darken up that area. Get less and less across here. You've got all the little crosses. A few little just here, so getting the tonal ranges, so it's going from dark, lighter, and lighter, and lighter. But this area here, you do get that rounding. So it's coming around down in there like that. So right, this area is starting to look nice. Let's add another little thorn on this one here, another one down here. Here I'm going to use the number 3, come back into this area. There are a lot of these little folds coming down into here now. In this area we have quite a few folds coming in. I've got really like a tough skin. A bit light here, so I don't want to make it too dark. I'm just giving indications of some of these ones, and then it disappears down the side. And then I'll come back and emphasize a few of these. And here I'm just going to put a really light cross hatching, but still showing these little lines going through here. Okay, now let's work on the ear. And we've got a few little, got some lines coming across here. It's going to be a lot of cross hatching. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do a lot of cross hatching here first, and then add the marks in. Much darker in this area. Carefully watching the areas where they're a bit darker. So a lot of your cross hatching that we learnt in the exercises coming in. Busy bringing that up. And you've got this area here which is a little bit darker than the top end, because there's a bit of a fold here in the ear, and that little fold comes up here and then works its way down there like that. A bit of a darker down here. Darker area here in these folds. Cross hatching. Bottom here is also do a little bit of a negative painting in there, or drawing as it were, up in, give me those folds. Okay, there's a bit of a darker fold in here. Slowly, this is quite a bit of a shadow, but you must just leave enough there for the, so it's not an absolutely deep shadow. Here we've got a few little creases that come in here. It comes in and out. You've got something coming in, something coming out, giving you that impression of that little ditch, as it were, inside here. And this part of the ear, do a shadow across there. Let's bring up all the main features first. And then here, you've got some of those going this way, some going that way. Bring up the shape of the head. Slowly the elephant's starting to take shape now. Across the top here, a few little lighter lines. Here there's quite a thick muscle that goes across here. So you've got that bit of a rounding here. Now watch that rounding. Comes in and flattens out this way. Some of it comes the side. Not much on there. few little markings here just to bring out the shape of the ear, let the ear get a bit more sunshine, although it's the other way around in the photograph. I want to emphasize it here in my drawing. So you've got some lines going across here, you've got some shadow in this area, a few little shadows in here. You've got these ones coming around from this side, and you got another one here. And what it is, you've got these little ridges coming across, and this is just the shadows for those little ridges, and in between here you've got all those little other little markings. I'm going to, let's see, down here there's a few little more darker in some of these areas. And in here you got a few, there's little humps coming around and coming out this way. Right, now I'm going to emphasize some of those, a little bit of the darks. Once I've got it going, that's coming down and emphasizing that little piece coming down here, little piece across here, that little one here, and this is a bit darker in this area here too. There's a bit of fold there. See, the one thing with this here is you've got one color, and in this you have to try and predict that. All you can do is, you can't give the color, but all you can do is give the tonal ranges. And that is the reason why I've got that black and white one. And you change the black and white, much easier to see where all the changes are to come, instead of watching just the color one. Most of the time now I've been watching the color one, but I have to sort of every now and again also just go along and watch the black and white to see we'll get by tonal ranges. That's why with pen and ink your tonal ranges are very, very, very important. Here, a few more markings across here. Going very, very lightly. Here you got the rounding, and you've also got some darker area here. There's a few little dots to indicate a bit on the top. Don't forget, it's very light, so you can't make it too dark at all. Let's see what we need to do now. We're going to come in and sort of give a bit of a marking here on the tusks. This one here has got bits of shadow on here as well, so we need to little touch of markings. Let's see, right. Very lightly I'm sort of touching these little areas. Very lightly, just to give it that shade effect, but also there's the shade that's coming across here, down this area down here. The tusk in this part here is also giving some shade, so you need to indicate some of that shade. There's quite a bit of shade in this area. So let's bring some of that up here. Put a bit more shading underneath these folds, and that tends to lift them up a little bit. Okay. So now the elephant is starting to stand out nicely. Now we're going to have to start working a bit. Yeah, this tusk is a little bit, it's not even here at the moment, so let's bring that out even there. All we need to do now is to finish off where the elephant is now standing in the grass. So, and we're going to be using some of those little squiggles and stuff that we learned in the previous classes. So let's go along. We've got a few little leaves and stuff all along here. You need to also sort of finish some of these. But let's first do some of these little leaves inside. As you come down, they get a little bit more on the darker side because of the shadows. Let's add some of these little, just little squiggles and stuff. Give you the impression of these little bushes. I'm not going to try and draw all the little leaves, whatever. Just little squiggles going along. Some coming up into this end here. A few coming in with those little grasses. Less on the top, more down the bottom in the sunshine. We got some in this area up top here, little bigger bushes way in the background. Going behind, a few little ones inside here, and then we got some closer bushes, a little bit more shape. And we're going to go in across here. Now this grass is in front of these other bushes because these bushes are behind the elephant. There's grass in the front, so we're careful not to sort of go over this grass and we upset the perspective. There we go, it's coming in. We come down, we've got a few more little grasses. As we come in, a little bit more darker. And here, got one that's sort of behind the elephant. Grass is coming out here, a bit darker. We're going to make this elephant's trunk sort of also sort of disappear into some of these bushes. So you will have some of the little bushes across here, but in between you'll still see some of the markings, or some of the trunk sort of appearing through some of these bushes. And a bit of a shade into there. And so take some more of these little bushes across here. Bring it down a bit so that that trunk can sort of disappear in. Darken it up here a little bit. the trunk is going to make it too, can't be too wide. It's got to get narrower and narrower as it gets towards the tip of the trunk. Let's get some more of these little bushes inside here. Go inside, and darken it up a little bit here so we can see this bigger grass coming up. Bit of a shadow in there, so we must put a bit of a shadow. So more in here. Of course, we also some in this area. And you got this leg sort of also disappearing in the grass, but you got some of these little bushes still showing up in front of it to give it that depth in here. So let's do that. We need to darken up this little area as well. More into here, and a few little shrubs and marks, leaves, all into this area here. It's dark and disappears inside. And a few little ones in the back. This one will also be a few little leaves and cross in here. And that one is also going to come down. I'm not going to sort of fill this in 100% because you've got lighter areas coming in, and you only see part of the legs through the bits of the shrubs. So you got some more of the shadow coming in here, the legs. A bit more. It's going to be working sort of into the grass, so we got some more grass coming down this end. Just an indication, that's all that is that we need. A suggestion of all these little leaves. The lighter sides, we're going to put some across here too, also just to show up the edge of the leg, otherwise it disappears. It's our contrast that we need, our tonal ranges. And we need to get in between these lots, so you've got some leaves coming up into here, down. And we can bring some of that, give you the shape of the tops of these little shrubs. And the other part disappears, a little bit darker in this area. Yeah, it's really standing out in all the vegetation that is disappearing. The original photograph of this one was, as you notice, it was full of bush, trees all around it, but we don't want to add all that in. We after the elephant, as it were. And there's some more in this area. And there's a grass that comes up here with a few other little grasses. Some seeds on it. Got these shrubs also in the back here, coming also on this side, coming across. Got some shadow, so you've got the bush in the front, you've got a little shadow at the back. Yeah, it's looking quite good at the moment, so let's see the edge of that, let's go down a bit there. Get a bit more of the darker coming down into this area. It's on the inside down here. So let's put a few odd little grasses and come up and shoot up. They got that little seeds on them. The others. Just to make it look a bit more homely, as it were.